Again, and God bless.
Thank you, Sharon. None of this would be possible without Sharon, her drive and dedication to the program, all of her volunteer hours and everything else. The Blue Star Banner program started in 2004 and has taken many volunteers committed to honoring the military personnel or who are related here to Temple City. We started with banners that lined Los Tunas Boulevard. They now proudly wave from Temple City and Roseby Boulevards. The Blue Star Banner program supports our troops through care packages, street banners, and recognition dinners like tonight, of which you all are part of. And thank you for being here. The mission is to make sure our military know how much we appreciate them and their service to our country. And many of you who have served and overseas know what it's like to get a care package from home and what it feels like inside. That's basically what we try and do. We have really been blessed by the many talents of our volunteers without whom we would not have succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. We give thanks to the volunteers who produce great slideshows like Tony here. He's also doing our sound. Give him a hand. And if you like this slideshow presentation, the gals back there will take a $5 bill and you can have a CD of tonight's program. And the barbecue, Don and his crew, they're probably still out there cooking, aren't they? Give them a hand because the food is not to share the church facility, and thank you to Pastor Jim and the many of the staff members here to make this facility available. The first one we did was in another facility. It didn't work out too well. And Temple City First Baptist graciously opened their doors and said, hey guys, you can use our facility if you like. So we've been here ever since. Nights in the park scooping cold ice cream. And by the way, if anyone's interested, this coming Wednesday at 6 o'clock or so, come on down to the park and we'll put a hat on you and a pair of gloves and you can scoop some ice cream. Many of you here have done that. It's a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, but it's very rewarding. People have knitted hats, made afghans, they run raffles thanks to Francis Corsoni. Her mom makes those beautiful afghans and her talents. If you look at the stage there, we started out the first year 10, 15 packages for raffles. Now there must be 50 up there, if not more. How many do we have, Francis? 37. 37. Now, she and Sharon go out and other people go out and they go to the businesses, the restaurants and throughout and say, hey, can you help us out? Can you help us out? And anyone that's ever done that knows how hard that is, especially today market. And Jim Walden will, okay, now I would like to introduce Pastor Jim Walden of First Baptist Church here in Temple City to do the invocation.
Again, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for coming. We're thrilled that we can open the doors and just let you use this facility. We believe in what you stand for and we're grateful to partner with you in that. So we're going to pray. Would you bow with me? Let's ask God's anointing on tonight. Father, thank you so much for this country. We love you and we are so grateful for our military, local and around the world, that stands there to keep us free. And Father, I ask that you would bless tonight, not only with your presence, but with a real sense of love and joy for those that are out there serving us. We ask you to bless this food to our bodies, and this would just be a great evening in your presence. Thank you again for this country, Father. We ask you to continue to keep us safe. I especially want to ask for those in Santa Monica tonight that are suffering because of what happened in that town this afternoon. Lord, protect us here, and we'll give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, we all say, amen. Amen. Thank you.
I'd like to have Troop 161 present the colors. And we thank you guys for your excellent, and we're honored to hear from, please come forward. rise as they present the colors.
On the guard. Dead. Point. On the guard. Front and center. Please post the flag of the United States of America. All of those in uniform and veterans salute. All of those not in uniform, please place your right hand over your heart. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. On the guard. Reform. About. Face. On the guard. Retreat. On the guard, dismissed. At ease.
Thank you, Troop 161, an excellent job. And now Mr. Jim Ponette will honor us with some patriotic music. Jim? Testing.
Bob, can you get the lights on? Yeah. Thank you.
I want to dedicate this Star Spangled Banner to the kids' second grade class in Oklahoma. They were practicing this song when the hurricane came, and the teachers told them to duck under their chairs and sing the Star Spangled Banner. Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you very much. Thank you. And God bless America. Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Now everybody, God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless you all.
Wow, thank you, Jim. Our guest speaker this evening is Mr. Steve Kemp, and a little thing about him here is he was born in Los Angeles in 1938. He moved to Alhambra with his folks in 1939. He attended Alhambra High School from 52 to 56. He received a double NROTC athletic scholarship to USC from 1957 to 1960, and he was a starting guard for the USC basketball team from 1959 through 1960. And I think he played against one of my cousins, Mike Ledger, who played for Stanford at that time. So, you know, of course I've always been an SC fan, so Mike just had to stand by and get better. He was a lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps from 1960 to 1963, which he's going to be speaking about this evening. He was a coach and a teacher at Pioneer High School from 1964 to 1970. My wife here is perked up because she had itinerant teaching in the Whittier, South Whittier district, and knows Pioneer very well with the offices right down the street. He was coach, teacher, and athletic director at Alhambra High School from 1971 to 1980. It gives me great pleasure at this time to introduce our guest speaker for the Three Star Banner program, Mr. Steve Kemp.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm not, somebody asked me at the table down here, do you speak much to many different organizations? I said, no. And a friend of mine recommended that, or told Sharon that I'd been in the Marine Corps quite some time ago and said I might be able to tell some stories, I think. One of the things that the way I responded to Sharon when I first met her was, you know, I've been in San Gabriel for 50 years now, and in and out of Temple City over and over and over again. And I've always noticed the signs up on the street lights, and I've always been impressed. I've never seen that anywhere else. Never. Okay? And so what Sharon's doing and what you folks are doing in terms of recognizing young men and women in the service is absolutely at the top of the list. Because you don't see it that often, and I'll be honest with you, in my view, these young people, and they are for the most part young people, don't get the recognition that they deserve. It's a remarkable thing to sign your name on a line that says ultimately you are willing to put your life on the line for your country. And they certainly don't receive yet the the kind of recognition and response that they should. I'm just going to share a few things that I thought about in terms of my training in the Marine Corps. I don't normally wear a tie nowadays, or very seldom, but I wanted to wear a tie tonight because I have a Marine Corps tie clasp. And if you'd like to see it, you may. But the Marine Corps means a great deal to me. And I think that I am today who I am in part, a big part, by what I was taught as I was trained in school as part of the NRTC program and on active duty in the Marine Corps. I want to begin by sharing something in this morning's paper. If you haven't read this morning's Time, and unfortunately this is not on the front page, it's on the second page. But it's a picture of a Marine Corps General, Marine General John Kelly, who shares a painful connection with of a memorial that has just been erected down south. He says, after writing scores of condolence letters, Marine General John Kelly thought he knew something about the pain of having a son killed during the war. Then his own son was killed in combat in Afghanistan in 2010, and Kelly found out the pain more, and I should have put my glasses on, more scorching and paralyzing than he had ever imagined. But it also gave him an unbreakable bond with other family members of the fallen. And so on Thursday, near the end of his speech of unveiling this memorial, which is down south, he told those in attendance that he would be walking through the crowd, and he considered them all to be brothers and sisters because of what he'd experienced. And I'm here to tell you right now, some of you have been in a position where you've been close to someone who's been killed in a combat situation. There's nothing like it. And here again, my praise goes out to Sharon and the others who have done so much for so many in terms of remembering these young people who are doing what they're doing. In terms of my own background, my path to the Marine Corps was relatively straightforward. My father, when I was a sophomore in high school, told my brother, who was a year older than myself, if you're planning on going to college, you need to find a way. And so we explored many different ways to try to find our way to college. And one of the ways, and I can't remember the details how I heard about NROTC exams that provided full college education, but ultimately I got involved, and by November of my senior year in high school, I had that scholarship wrapped up, which gave me an opportunity to, oh, thanks. Aren't you nice? I think I finished with them anyway, Jim.
Sure.
That's okay. Jim's going to be here tomorrow. He thought this is great. He's with the Special Olympic bowling, and they meet here tomorrow for a big program. And maybe the singers are not nice because they have a big awards program. But at any rate, it was a short route, so I was able to get that scholarship. And I was 18 years old. I didn't have a full understanding of what that involved, and I learned pretty quickly. As I got to the USC campus, I found out that I would have to wear a uniform once a week, and I would be drilling once a week, and I started to think, well, how many, I was trying to think back, how many were involved in that NROTC program in those years? And we go back to 1957, for Pete's sake, and I said, well, I'll look at my annual, okay, when I graduated in 1960. So I got the annual, and I can't find anything anywhere about the NROTC. I finally found 2 pages that covered Air Force ROTC and Naval ROTC, and we're talking almost 500 guys that were involved in those 2 programs. 2 pages in that annual. And I looked back to the front of the annual, and they had 10 pages for the Helen of Troy contest. Individual pictures and who was suggested, how the vote went, and I thought, oh my goodness, things don't change like this. Here again, made me think about what's going on today and lack of recognition of those who put their life on the line. Very quickly, I found out, because I was a regular NROTC student, that I would be required to do what the Navy told me to do in the summers. So I found myself on an airplane right after my freshman year in Los Angeles, and I was headed to Washington, D.C. I'd never been east of the Rocky Mountains, I think. The plane landed. It was a prop plane, obviously, in 1957. It landed on the tarmac in Washington, D.C., And they opened the door, and we started to walk down the ladder like they did in those days, and I felt like I was inside of a big hangar somewhere, and there was something wrong with the air. I could hardly breathe. Humidity. I grew up in California. I don't understand humidity. You guys know about humidity. So I had a big sea bag, and they finally pointed me in the direction of the USS Gainer, which was the ship that I would be taking out of Norfolk, Virginia. Never been on a ship. And I was a third-class midshipman as opposed to the first-class midshipman that were the guys that were seniors or between their junior and senior. And they said, and they showed me a board, and I'm thinking, well, where is this? Where's my rack going to be? And you're down one deck to the mess decks and down another deck to the crew's quarters, a room about 15 by 15, and 30 guys were in there. And I thought, this is going to be fun. And then 4 on, 8 off watches from Norfolk down through the Panama Canal, stop at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, and all the way down the west coast of South America to Valparaiso, Chile. First time the American Navy had been in there 20 years. So a very interesting experience, and certainly a growing up experience for a 19-year-old kid. I still remember, and those of you that have been on the ship, remember early in the morning, the bosun's whistle to get your attention first. And then reveille, heave out and trice up. Sweepers, man your brooms, sweep down all lower decks, ladders, and passageways, empty all trash cans over the fantail. I remember that from 50 years ago for crying out loud, because I heard it every morning. And then sick call came up. It said, sick call, all sick, lame, lazy, crippled, blind, and crazy. Before the sick call. So interesting experience. And that was quite a learning experience. I can remember standing a forward lookout watch on the bridge, and the officer of the deck that was controlling the ship had binoculars that were about that long, and I had 7 by 50s about this long, and we were in a task force. We had 7 destroyers, the battleship Wisconsin, a couple of cruisers, and a tanker, and we're supposed to keep track of the running lights in the middle of the Caribbean now. Okay, so it's not only a task force, but there's other ships in there as well. And time after time, if you look down at midshipman Kemp, didn't you see the running lights at 2 o'clock up? He has his big binoculars. I said, no, sir, I couldn't see him. But I tried hard. But at any rate, it's certainly a learning experience. Between my sophomore and junior year, I was 4 weeks in Little Creek, Texas. Oh my goodness! Introduction to Naval Air. Somebody tell me the Naval Air Station in Texas. Corpus Christi. Yeah, Corpus Christi. So introduction to Naval Air. I got to ride in a jet trainer with a Marine major that said, okay, here we go. And it took up, I thought we were going 1,000 miles an hour, and he said, okay, I want you to take the stick and do this and do that. And I was very glad to get down at the end of that flight. And then an introduction to anti-submarine warfare. At that time, they had a P-5M, which is the world's largest 2-engine aircraft at the time. And they said, we're going to take the midshipman up, and we're going to give you an opportunity to take the stick and fire a rocket at a smoke grenade in the Gulf of Mexico there that they had dropped. And so 2 midshipmen went up first, and there was like 4 or 5 of us in the back still that were due to go. And we were watching, and the plane got lower, lower, lower. We could look right out the side, and the water was like right there. And I said, this thing's really getting low. And just about then, a sharp pull up like this, and the young JG that was the captain of the airplane says, he got target fixation, no more midshipmen will be coming up here to do that. So I was glad to get out of that. Between my junior and senior year, or actually, they flew us from there to Little Creek for the introduction to the Marine Corps. And for some reason, my response to that training, even though it was very difficult back in Quantico, or Little Creek, Virginia at that time, I was very competitive, and that was up my line. And I really enjoyed the exactness with which the Marine Corps taught the things that they were teaching. And after that junior year, you make a selection. If you want to try for a commission in the Marine Corps, you can declare you want to do that. And if you do, between your junior and senior year, you go back to Quantico for 7 weeks, and that's just like boot camp, okay? And for those of you that have been involved in the boot training, you know what we're talking about. And there's an effort at that time, particularly by the NCOs that are in charge of that training, to convince you that you really don't want to be a Marine officer. And they did convince. They couldn't convince me, though. I was convinced that I wanted that. On one occasion, we were sitting around doing nothing, and as happens in the military, and a lot of you know about it, And there was some rabbits running around. One of the guys picked up a rock and threw it at the rabbit and killed him. And just then the gunny sergeant came walking in and he said, "Who did that?" And nobody said anything. He says, "It doesn't matter." He says, "Bury it." All we had was entrenching tools. 2 hours later, we had a pretty large-sized hole we had to bury that rabbit in. So, part of the training. Finally, was commissioned as I graduated from SC, and one thing about the Marine Corps, and it makes me think that the teaching and training in the Marine Corps may be above some of the other services. Any officer in the Marine Corps, as soon as they're commissioned, they go back to basic school for 7 months, okay? Any officer, to my knowledge, in the other services, Navy included, they go in charge of troops immediately. So at least by the time you get out of boot camp, you should, or excuse me, Quantico, 7 months of basic school, you should know something. You fire all the TO weapons and you're subjected to situations of night compass marches through swamps and other things that simply don't happen, I think, in normal training situations in some of the other services. So I appreciated that. And by the time I reported to Camp Pendleton in January of that year, that's to be 1961, I was ready to do what I needed to do. And I saw the first lieutenant and down the main side said, "Well, we have 2 openings, one in the 5th Marines and one in the 1st Anti-Tank Battalion." I said, "I don't care." I said, "Whatever you want." And so I got assigned to the 1st Anti-Tank Battalion, which is no longer part of the Marine Corps. It proved to be ineffective in terms of combat in Vietnam, and they were done away with. But the 1st Anti-Tank Battalion had, probably 45 or 50 light track vehicles. They're 9-ton vehicles, very thin armor, about an inch of armor, but they're mounted 6 106 recoilless rifles on each side, so tremendous firepower. In fact, the rounds that those 106 recoilless rifles fired could penetrate 24 inches of homogeneous armor plate, or 36 inches of reinforced concrete. So it's a tremendous weapon, but don't let the tanks see you first. If they do, you're gone, because you know that it's an ambush kind of a weapon. So played games with the tanks for quite a time. That's so I really knew Camp Pendleton like the palm of my hand. The first night, incidentally, though, when I reported in, the CAT company commander said, welcomed me aboard and said, "We're going in the field tonight." Never been on Camp Pendleton, okay? And I said, "Aye, aye, sir." And I was put in charge of a platoon of Ontos, the track vehicle, and that's 5 of them, and had like 20 guys that were going to do what I said supposedly. Well, I learned very quickly, and I'm smart enough to understand very quickly, I think, that my platoon sergeant, and I'll always remember his name, Sergeant Steele, was in charge. He was driving that thing, and I said, "Sergeant Steele, you're in charge. You tell me where we are, what we're doing, and let me know what's going on." And I learned early on that all the services rely heavily on the ability of the enlisted guys. They're the real body of what's going on, I think. In terms of what I did, I guess I'll tell you one quick story. I don't want to take a whole lot of time here. They said just an hour and a half. Was that right? Just kidding. I'll just tell you one quick story. This was, I guess, I'd been at Pendleton for maybe a year and a half or so. And a good friend of mine that was a football player from Kansas was in our battalion. And a story came out in the Marine Corps newspaper from an event that took place on the East Coast. It was back in, I think Quantico, or it could have been Paris Island, I'm not sure, but somebody found an article that was written by Teddy Roosevelt, who made a comment about Marine officers. He said a good Marine officer can go 50 miles and run the last half a mile and be ready to fight in less than 24 hours. And so sure enough, somebody put that to the test. A commanding officer back on the East Coast said, "Yeah, we'll see if that's true." And they got some guys to do it back on the East Coast. So this friend of mine from Kansas, he said, well, Kemp, he said, come on, we got to do this. I remember his name was Jim Haggerty, and I said, Jim, I've never been 50 miles, but that's a long way. Are you sure you want to do this? He said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So he talks me into it. We went to see the major, who was a Battalion XO, and he said, he looked at both of us standing in front of his desk, and he says, we only need one. He flipped a coin, he said, call it. I lost. Haggerty walked out of the office, and I was, 2 hours later, we left. There was no chance to get ready for this 50-mile thing. But we went 50 miles, and those of you that know Petalin, we went from the main side, which is down by Oceanside, all the way up to the north end of the base, Camp San Mateo, for the first half, and then back. Now, at Camp San Mateo, they fed us. They gave us, we had steak and eggs. I had 2 steaks and a half a dozen eggs. And not 3 or 4 miles down the road, I had a peanut butter and honey sandwich. It was like gassing up. But at any rate, we did it in 17 and a half hours. So amazing what you can do when you're on the road. I just want to wrap things up here. I mentioned to begin with what this Marine General was going through in terms of his contact and having to write letters for families that lost their sons and daughters in combat, and he's losing his own. And I want to kind of close this by getting back to that feeling again, that the big thing here is young men and women putting their name on a dotted line and then finding themselves in a situation where they're putting their life on the line. And what you're doing tonight is remarkable in terms of remembering that kind of commitment. It came home to me. I didn't have to go to Vietnam, fortunately. I would have gone and done my duty. I'm not sorry to say I missed it, but I had friends that didn't. One of my best friends went to SC with, and he was a career-oriented guy for sure, and he got interested in aviation. He went to Pensacola, got his wings, ended up flying FAU fighter jets. He flew 100 missions over North Vietnam, and then he was 6 months on the ground calling in airstrikes, okay? And I saw him shortly after he got home after that tour, probably 67, 68, and his name was Wyatt, and I said, Wyatt, what's going on? He had just made major. He says, I'm getting out. And I said, you're getting out? You're kidding. He says, no, 2 things. Number one, it's a lot different when they start shooting back at you. And then number 2, he says, we're not going to win this thing. When he was on the ground calling in airstrikes, he said they captured elderly, North Vietnamese women that were carrying artillery shells down through the jungle. They're looking at this as a war of independence. And more disturbing than anything, he says, were the rules of engagement. They'd be up and they'd get jumped by MiG fighters, turn and pursue, and then they had to stop. Couldn't go any farther. So those kind of things got him out. And that was tough for me to see him, give up one of his dreams in terms of being a career guy. It's just not worth it to him at that point. And then a couple other things. Two of my better buddies, we were surfing buddies all through college, both became helicopter pilots. And they're in the Navy, and of course, any helicopter pilots, as Bob Percy well knows, in Vietnam, not a good situation. Well, a good friend named Dennis Peterson was hit, and the last communication he had from him was, he says, we're at 1,000 feet, we've just been hit, we're going in. Never found him. When I went down and got a chance to see the wall and looked at his name on there, it dawned on me again the seriousness of what was going on here, and his folks were absolutely crushed. They never did find his body, and worse than that, about 15 years after the fact, they thought they did, and they came and looked his parents up, were living in San Clemente at the time, and his mother came to the door and they told her that she had a stroke on the spot. So what is being done here at this event is a remarkable thing, and you're to all be congratulated, I think, for supporting it. Your individual family members are involved in this thing, and more importantly, supporting those that you know that have put their name on the line and are doing some tremendous things on behalf of a country that oftentimes is not as grateful as it should be. So my congratulations to you, and certainly congratulations to all who have made this event possible, and I hope it continues. Very quickly, any questions at all? I think I've taken enough time, but I was going to go a question and answer, but I think I've probably taken enough time, Bob. And, any at all? I kind of discouraged it by saying that. But you come up to me afterwards, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them the best I can. Thank you very much.